Chapter 3 The Tasmanian Shop. After saving the Golden Gate Bridge and all the people on it, some of whom were tossing their cookies from seeing Raymond drool like no dog ever drooled in the long history of drooling, Jo and her sidekick high-fived each other all the way home. Steering a speeding Schmo-mobile while high-fiving is not recommended, but if anyone could do it, Jo Schmo could. And she did quite effectively. When she got home, she parked the Schmo-mobile and went into the backyard to find her grandpa. Grandpa Joe, that is. It can be a little complicated having two Joes in one household, Jo and Joe. Jo found Joe in his backyard chuck. "We did it, Gramps," Joe said, opening the door and going inside. "We saved the bridge." "Good work, Joe." "What's next?" Joe asked. Grandpa Joe was a retired sheriff and an expert what's nexter. He pointed to the police radio and said, "Not much going on, Joe. We wait." Joe was not an expert waiter. "Got any new moves to show me?" she asked. "Moves?" Grandpa Joe asked. "Fighting moves," Joe said. "Hand-to-hand combat stuff." Joe had already perfected the Russian toe hold, not to mention the Siberian ear tweak. She was also the master of the knuckle sandwich. But those were yesterday's moves. Joe wanted something new. "Have you ever heard of the Tasmanian Shop?" Grandpa Joe asked. Joe shook her head. She'd heard of pork chops, but that wasn't exactly a move. "How does the Tasmanian Shop work?" "Put your face over here and I'll show you." Joe moved closer. "Chop!" "Ow," Joe said. It was the second best move she'd ever seen or felt. Not as good as the knuckle sandwich, but close. "Okay, my turn, Gramps," Joe said. "Put your face over here." Gramps leaned closer. "Chop!" "Ouch!" All afternoon, Joe and Joe worked on the Tasmanian Shop while Raymond watched. Raymond wasn't all that interested in the Tasmanian Shop. He preferred the pork variety. But what could he do? Sometimes you just had to watch boring combat moves. And the reason for the boring combat moves was that Jo Schmo and her grandpa didn't think much was going on in the crime world. They were wrong. Plenty was going on. While they were smacking each other with the Tasmanian Shop, Dr. Dastardly and Numbskull were planning their prison break and plotting their revenge against Jo Schmo, and her little dog too. Not only that, but time-traveling pirates were heading to San Francisco to rob and steal and do all sorts of other piratey things, like drink grog and chase women. But more about that later. Chapter 4, Pinkbeard. On second thought, let's talk about it now. The reason the pirates were traveling through time was that they were greedy. They'd already robbed and stolen and done all sorts of other piratey things like drink grog and chase women in their own time, but they wanted more, much more. Maybe people had more money to rob in the future, and maybe the grog tasted better and the women were cuter. This is what Pinkbeard, the leader of the pirates, thought anyways. You might be thinking that Pinkbeard is a pretty ridiculous name for a pirate. You're not alone. Pinkbeard would agree with you. He used to call himself Blackbeard, but he'd drunk so much pink lemonade over the years that his beard had changed from black to pink. It happens. You can't exactly call yourself Blackbeard if your beard is the color of bubblegum. Still, he was the leader of the band of pirates, which isn't too shabby for a guy with a pink beard. And these were not your average pirates. These guys were time travelers. Greedy time travelers. Grog-loving greedy time travelers. Tattooed grog-loving greedy time travelers. Well, you get the idea. Pinkbeard was the leader of some interesting fellows. "Let's head to the future," Pinkbeard called out. "How far?" asked Bart. Bart was second in command and in charge of moving the pirate ship through time. "Far," Pinkbeard grunted. "As far as possible." He just hoped they'd had good lemonade in the future. Bart turned the dial, which was right next to the ship's wheel, all the way to 20, which is code for sometime this century. Sproink! You might be thinking what a time-traveling pirate would go whoosh when it traveled through time. Not this pirate ship. Not one operated by a bunch of interesting fellows. Interesting fellows prefer more unique sound effects. Anyway, Pinkbeard and his gang shot through time to the current century. Then they tied off one of the piers and headed out to explore San Francisco. "What's the plan, boss?" Bart asked. "The plan is to do piratey things," Pinkbeard replied. "Like rob and steal?" Bart asked. "And drink grog and chase women." But where to begin? San Francisco was a big place. Pinkbeard and his gang walked along the wharf looking for ideas, and suddenly there it was, a flyer posted on the wall that read, "Wine tasting and fashion show open to the public, especially if you're rich." "Ahoy," said Pinkbeard. This is what you call a triple whammy. Everything they were after in one place. They could rob and steal and drink and grog and chase women. "I love the future already," said Bart. "Too bad it's not lemonade tasting and fashion show," thought Pinkbeard. Oh well, at least they had rich people to rob and girls to chase. 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. Chapter 5. Dr. Dastardly's Evil Plan. Numbskull didn't like Dr. Dastardly's plan. Exploding macaroni, a giant slingshot, but he really did want to escape, but he really did miss his mom. More importantly, he wanted to get back at Joe Schmo and her slobbering sidekick for sending him to jail in the first place. So he went along with the plan. Since Numbskull worked in the prison laundry, it was his job to steal the elastic waistbands from all the underwear. They would need lots of elastic to launch 2 bad guys over the prison wall. Day after day, he stole the elastic waistbands from the underwear, and soon the inmates began walking funny because their underwear was falling down inside their pants. If you ever see prison inmates walking funny because their underwear has fallen down inside their pants, you should point and laugh. They hate that. Meanwhile, Dr. Dastardly, who worked in the prison kitchen, made progress on the exploding macaroni. Things were going so well that he almost let out an evil laugh. As you know, there are rules. Before you make a successful prison break, you have to throw your head back and let out an evil laugh. But if he did that, the guards would come running. So no evil laugh, not yet. Not until after the kaboom. Mwahaha. It was the day of the prison break. A gigantic pot of macaroni had just exploded. This was followed by Dr. Dastardly's evil laugh. Macaroni flew up in every direction. Up, down, sideways, diagonally, you name it. The prison warden came running. So did the guards. And then, kaboom! Another pot went off. This was Dr. Dastardly's plan. The pots were set to explode at different times. Just when the guards thought they were getting things under control, kaboom! More flying macaroni. Dr. Dastardly ran outside for part 2 of his evil plan. He found Numbskull on the prison football field, tying his underwear elastic to the goalpost. "Multiple explosions," Numbskull said. "Brilliant. And you thought it was a dumb plan," said Dr. Dastardly. "Let's go." The ends of the enormously long band of elastic were now tied to the goalposts. They pulled back, climbed in, and whoosh! You might be thinking that the sound effect of a gigantic slingshot would be more like a sproink. I know. Go figure. In any case, Dr. Dastardly and Numbskull flew over the prison wall to freedom. As they ran away from prison, Dr. Dastardly kept yelling, "Free at last! Free at last!" He'd heard that in a speech somewhere. Free at last! "Now to get Joe Schmo," Numbskull said. "What's the plan, bad doctor?" Dr. Dastardly was too busy saying "free at last" to listen to what Numbskull was saying. "What's the plan?" Numbskull yelled. "Free at last." Dr. Dastardly stopped. He turned to Numbskull. "What?" "The plan. The get back at Joe Schmo plan? And her little dog too?" "Of course her little dog too," said Numbskull. Dr. Dastardly grinned. "Follow me."